this is Cheapass-tro. I'm Nugsy. Part 2, DIY astromodding, the tutorial. It is quite a long one, folks, but don't worry about it. There are timestamps down below, so you can click about, use it for reference, no problem there. But I think it needs to be long because what I'm doing here, although I've built it as a tutorial, is more of a walkthrough in my eyes, because I'm following someone else's tutorial that's already up online and who has also done a tutorial video which is already on YouTube, and the whole thing's over within 10 minutes. And I want to deliver a very different experience. I want something a lot more laid back and actually show the steps as they happen for me as a first timer. So as a first timer, not knowing exactly what I'm doing, you'll see the bits I get a little confused over, the bits I find a little bit too fiddly, a little bit awkward. It's all there. It fell in. There it is. Now, before we even start on this and I show you the site where all this is hosted, I do want to make sure that you watched part 1 and heard the disclaimer, and this is not to be taken lightly. Make no bones about it, if you intend doing any sort of modification inside a camera, let alone at its sensor, you should be in a place in your own head where you've already lost that camera, because there is a risk that you will lose this camera. Fact. So we're going to take a look now at this site where all these instructions are hosted. This is the new home of DSLR modifications.com. This was Gary Honis's site. Gary Honis being the man who brought DIY astromodding to the world. Sadly no longer with us, but boy did he leave his mark in astrophotography. He has a full list of instructions up here for all the cameras you see listed there, and yes, they are all Canon. I will be following the instructions for the 450D as I have one. It actually is exactly the same as doing it to 1000D, except for a couple of screws, so my tutorial will cover both of those. So have fun, look around the site. We're going to get stuck in and have a look at these 450D instructions. This covers all of these models. By the way, I'm calling it 450D, 1000D. I know across in the States you don't call it that, you call it an XSI and an XS and all that. Sorry about that, but I'm just used to what I'm used to. So all these models are covered in these instructions apparently. However, it's only these first two are literally like step by step. These all have little side notes and what have you, and I'm not going to touch on those, but they're all here for you to follow along with yourself if you have one. So this is page 1, configuration prep, blah blah blah, and there are some notes in here we need to see. So let's first of all, let's just go with the 450D. So yes, he's done this mod, removed its IR cut filter, but he installed a Baader DSLR correcting filter. Now this is what they then call a Baader mod. It's different from what we're doing today, which they call the HA mod, hydrogen alpha mod. So we are just going to remove the IR, or not the IR, but LPF2 filter, and we're not going to replace it with anything. Okay, it can be replaced with this from Baader, and it can also be replaced with a clear glass replacement. In this case there's a measurement of 0.57 millimeters. Now I have no idea where you would get a clear glass of equal thickness. I'll try and pop something up on screen if I can find a link for the Baader one, but these are apparently available, and that doesn't tie well with a free modification. So if you decide you want to put a replacement filter in, first of all, here's why you might decide. There's two reasons. When we remove the LPF2 filter from the camera, we have changed then the focal point of that camera. What this means is that autofocus will no longer work. That's a given when you do the free mod with no replacement. In some lenses, you might not even be able to reach infinity focus because this focal point has shifted because of the missing piece of glass. And it won't match up with what you see in the viewfinder either. So all focusing will, after the mod, need doing via live view instead, and it can't be done automatically, which it can't be in astrophotography anyway, so that doesn't matter one jot to me. I was happy to sacrifice autofocus. I never use it. If you need to maintain autofocus or want to, then you're going to have to pay for replacement glass and fit that back into the hole we made by taking the other one out. Now, a clear glass replacement, if you're able to find one, will just put the focal point back to where it was and should maintain autofocus. The Baader version, it's actually a filter, alright, so it does the same as the filter we removed, but it moves the red curve a lot further up. Yet if you just remove the filter, that red curve gradually slopes off, whereas the Baader cuts that out. Okay, and the extra light that we're capturing with the filter actually not replaced, i.e. the free HA mod that we're doing, that extra light can, in refractor telescopes and camera lenses, cause poor focus and bloated stars. Okay, so that extra light can be detrimental in some in refractors and lenses. I have not seen any examples of this, but that's what they say. I'm using a reflector and this doesn't matter at all to me. But that is something you might take into account, and you may need to put a replacement in that hole that we made. It's no longer then going to be free for you. But if you can live with all that, losing autofocus, possibly losing infinity focus in some lenses, then we're fine. In my eyes, the 450D is purely for astrophotography alone, and that's all I need it to be. So a free Astromod is perfect for me. I have actually 2 lenses of the 4 I had. I've given 2 away recently. So all I have remaining is my old vintage 135mm lens that I picked up for €20, and infinity focus on that is a little bit soft. It's just not quite getting there, unfortunately. So they are right, it does change the focal point. However, that relies on an adapter to fit to the camera, so that extra couple of mil on the adapter, if that wasn't there, that lens would be okay. My other lens is a Tamron 70 to 300mm lens. This is actually the broken one I replaced with a newer one and then gave away. Autofocus never did, or didn't work on this to start with, so I couldn't test that. I know it's not going to work anyway. But I was easily able to reach infinity focus on this. This is the first and only photo I took after doing the mod. That communications mast is 3/4 of a mile away. I'm at 300mm, and that looks fine. It's in focus, not a problem. But you do see that after the mod, the colour's all off. There's too much red in it. It's a pinky hue all over the image, and this will happen. That's another side to the mod. Alright, so if you're doing daytime photography with a modded camera, your pictures will end up like this. But when I loaded this into a software called Darktable just to convert this raw image into a JPEG, I did that, and then I just took the red slider and turned that down a little and came up with this image, which is just back to normal. So you can do that post-production, or you can actually set a custom white balance on the camera and switch to that when you're going to do daytime photography, and then they're saved straight onto your SD card at the right color in the first place. No more pink pictures. So I think that wraps that up. It's gonna lose autofocus, may not focus in some lenses, not replacing the glass with anything, may result in bloated stars. I've not found that, but I use a reflector and that makes a difference there. If you have tried a camera with a simple HA mod, i.e. removal, no replacement, on a refractor or a lens, please let us know in the comments how it went, because I do want those comments to kind of fill up with real good advice for people here. There's a lot confused about this issue. So far we got removal of the LPF2 filter, no replacement. What we're doing, we just call it the HA mod. If you replace it with clear glass, I believe it's still called the HA mod, but it will retain autofocus. If you replace it with the Baader glass, it's called the Baader Mod, but there's another one as well, another version, and I'm not going to even touch on it really, because this involves the removal of both filters, including the UV IR filter, and putting back in the camera a bare naked sensor. This is something that most people do not want. I think the biggest market for this is people who want to do daytime infrared photography. Basically, your sensor, when it's naked, will take in all available light, and it's to be used in conjunction with like clip-in filters or screw-on filters. I would not recommend that unless you're looking for infrared, and to be honest, I don't know a lot about that. I've not looked into it. All I want is more red out of the sky. HA, give me that good HA. Let's see how to do it. So the 450D, yes, been through all that now, and now we are going to need some stuff, and Gary's put up a picture here of his stuff. So first and foremost, just to get in there in the first place, is screwdrivers. Gary has used one of those cheapy sets of jeweler screwdrivers. These can be picked up in cheap shops all over the place, but they might not be the best to use. But I actually bought the proper screwdrivers for the job, following a tip that I got off someone on Facebook. And that tip was to not use those because there's one awkward screw along the way, and some people have stripped the head on it. We'll talk about that when we get there in the instructions. But the screwdrivers I actually use, I bought for this job, so it wasn't entirely free for me. I'll put the price up on screen. It wasn't expensive at all. But they're Japanese industrial standard. So the screws on the Canon are not Phillips and they're not Posi. They're just JIS. They use their own special screws just to make it awkward. I don't know what the difference is, but it's in fit. And I could feel that there's a perfect fit with those screwdrivers. And one has to be taken at an angle, but there's a way around it, we'll see. So that's an optional choice, is a set of these things. I doubt I will ever use them again, unless I'm on another camera. I did buy a little cheapy set of X-Acto knives. That was about £4. I didn't need this because that's for replacing glass. I did use gloves, but I used nitrile gloves, the blue ones. And here he's got a couple of toothpicks / cocktail sticks, wooden pointed sticks. Very, very handy because these pull out ribbon cables and they're not going to scratch through them. Ribbon cables being broken is a big failure of people in the past. So cocktail sticks is a must. Sharp knife, screwdrivers, gloves, cocktail sticks. He's put a microfiber cloth there handy. But what he hasn't shown is a rocket blower. And as they all say, get one with a filter on it, because you could be blowing dust back into it. I got a cheapie, but I still used it. Here he has a magnifying glass with some sort of light on it. Very handy thing. You're dealing with small parts, make sure you can see, and you're doing this in a well lit room. Other things you need, I got a set of little boxes to put internal parts into to keep them dust free while they're waiting to go back in again. And I soon discovered that they were too small, and I ended up reverting to Ziploc food bags to put the larger parts in. Now there's talk here of a digital micrometer needed for measuring shims and stuff, and this is something I wanted to address also. You read comments online, if you look up modding on forums and stuff, you see people saying, oh no, you don't want to do that by yourself, no, because you've got to set this just right, and if you get it slightly off it's going to be buggered. And that's only applicable in some cases. In my case, I didn't touch anything. I made no adjustments. I'm not trying to retain autofocus. That's what they're on about there, is retaining autofocus after the removal. You have to then make adjustments to the sensor position. I didn't touch anything. I just put it back as it was. I've lost autofocus and that's it. So don't worry about that sort of stuff. Okay, now, something a lot of people might miss is here. For the many small screws removed, you can tape them to a piece of paper with notes on step number, size, location, assembly step, and in the order of removal. And that sounds horrible, that task, but this is brilliant. You can print out and use these screw sheets for each model. So you can print this sheet out, and this is step 1, and when you put it back together it'll be step 51. Step 1 has 3 screws, one is larger than the other 2, and you can just pop them through these holes on your sheet of paper to keep them safe. Without a sheet like this, this job would be a nightmare, because I'm terrible for keeping things organised. I think this is a great idea and a great first step before we actually do the mod. So here's one I printed out earlier without the printer. And even though I drew the little holes on there, I changed my mind and put on a few strips of sticky tape. And when it comes to it, I'm going to peel the backing off that double-sided tape and just stick the screws to that piece of paper. They're not going to go rolling about and mixing up together. I find that printout, even if you do have to scribble it out yourself on a piece of paper, is invaluable. Really, I wouldn't do this without it. So we remove these 3 screws and we pop them in the right places on step 1 of that printout. And we're on to step 2 already. It's a breeze, this, isn't it? Yeah. Now, along the bottom of the camera there's 6 screws, but there's 4 we're removing. That's the 4 in a line here. 1 long, 2 short, 2 medium. And I might as well not hang about on these little clips. Step 3. The 1000D has 2 short screws here instead of 1 long screw. So yeah, this is how mine is, just 1 screw up there. The 1000D, this is one place it differs. So step 4, other side of the camera, 2 screws. Both short on a 1000D. 1 long, 1 short on a 450. Right, number 5. Remove the screws located near the neck strap mount. So, yep, up on the top of the camera, just down in those little gaps there. We'll take both of those out. It's long screw on the fat end of the camera, the battery and SD end, and short on the other. Step 6 already. Remove the rubber piece. This isn't on the 1000D, by the way, so you just skip that. But the 450 has a little rubber piece, and I just got a little sharp knife under the edge of that to get it started, and it peeled back. Put that somewhere safe. And that is all the screws on the back half of the camera off now. Page 2, we're going to take this rear off. So all the screws are undone, and it's just a case of prying apart now. And I did find this quite awkward. It did not want to come, and I couldn't work out why. And the last thing I was going to do is apply too much pressure and have it yank and pull a ribbon cable out. So I was being ultra careful. I did end up putting a little screwdriver in there to try and just sort of ease it out bit by bit in a corner here and there. What's holding it? Something back here? There it goes. Look. That's tape. I think should have come away with the rubber bit, but it's stuck. And bit by bit, sure enough, it did come. Okay, so now there's a ribbon cable connecting the back of the camera, and to remove these, quite simple, there's a little flap on the top, little black part, and it needs lifting up. I use a small screwdriver for that because it's sturdy enough. A little bit of pressure and it just clip up into the upright position, freeing that cable. And with a cocktail stick or toothpick, you can then put it in the little hole there and ease that cable out. The back is now finally free, and we can put that in a nice Ziploc bag to keep safe and dust free. And the little rubber bit on the side, if it didn't fall out, is now free to remove. Might be screwed on some models. Okay. Now, before we start on these ribbon cables, in the back we've got 3 screws to remove. One here, and one here. There is a little bit of black stuff on these screws. A little bit of like lock stuff. It might crack as you turn it. But that's all fine. Okay, there on the job sheet. So apparently these ribbon cables are done in a specific order on Gary Honis's site, and they're labelled. So we're going to start with A here, which is just a pull-out connector. There is a little hole in the ribbon cable there, hope you can see, and we just put the toothpick in that hole and pull on it. It comes out nice and easy. The second one is almost the same, except there's a little plastic lid clip holding that into place. So I'm going to use the small screwdriver again just to clip that lid upright, and then this one is free to be pulled out. C is just another pull-out connector. Might take a little bit of wiggling to get it there. And D has another little flap. So we clip that up, and then the hole is further back on the ribbon. On this one, just pull the ribbon free. That's the first 4 ribbon cables free. Okay, so moving on now, this one is E, and it's a different type of connector again. It presses down into its socket, so we've just got to lift it up. I'm using a little screwdriver, just give it a little lift here and there, and that just pops up. Then F is it in the top right corner. It has the little lid, the little hinge securing that. So once that hinge is popped up, again, toothpick in the hole and pull the cable free. Okay, so this last 4 now. G is this, and again it's hinged, so just pop that hinge up and slide out the cable as before. Looks like my cocktail stick's been blunted. There he is. Next, this one here, again, same thing. Flip it up, ribbon out. But yet there are 2 more. Okay, the next one, I on the list. I'll try to show you as best I can. It is up under this last ribbon cable, and if I lift that up, we can see it's a bit awkward to get to, but there is a little flap there, the release for that cable. I don't know if I can hold this out the way. I'm having difficulty seeing it myself in this. I think my hands are going to have to get in the way a certain amount on this one. I'm sorry, but it's the only way I can get in there to release that clip. Okay, that's up. And I'm feeling for the hole in the strip because I can't see one. There, and that's out. That's going to be fun putting back in, that one. Now we're on to the very last, and I think this one, oh, let me check the video again. It's a slightly different clip. Okay, I see now. So with this J, we flip this up towards the cable. It works in the opposite direction, that security latch, that's all. So now once that's flicked up, again, pop it in the hole, and we got that final ribbon cable released. So that's 3 screws and A to J on the ribbon cables. Okay, so now we've a screw to remove. Again, it's under that ribbon cable, so just lifting that up so you can see. Hopefully you can see anyway. I'm sticking that to the job sheet. Bottom left, we have a grounding strap, and he says just to bend this back, just so as to obviously allow this circuit board to come away. On the 1000D, you'll find a screw in that hole, and we have also another connector. Now it's not the ribbon connector, it's a bit more substantial, and this one needs pulling out somehow or other. Okay, so it looks like, yeah, it's just being a bit stiff. So hold the board and try and ease that out with your screwdriver, bit by bit, left and right. And there it goes. Okay, we got that now. Good. Okay. This second grounding strap, I think, stays on the board, but we can now lift this board out. Just be careful not to snag and drag anything with it as it goes. And the whole thing should come out. And again, we want to put that somewhere safe. Now, the sensor is in here, and this is what we're getting at next. Okay, there's a long screw to come out from just here. Pretty sure that can be the only one he refers to in the video. So that's that screw. Sticking it to the job sheet or screw sheet. And then we have another ribbon cable, and it's just the pull out kind. It's going to take a bit of a wiggle. Back and forth, left and right. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. There we go. It says the next 4 screws. The first of which is the top left one. He says is at an angle, and it can be difficult. It doesn't seem to be at an angle for me. It just looks like the others. So I don't know what he was referring to with that. Okay. So we're looking at that screw there, and if I look down to shine my bloody light on it, oh come on, fuck talking, I'm holding a torch in my mouth. Oh. How do these YouTubers do it? Right, okay. So this is the screw that many people have trouble with. That one there, you see that little crosshead? That one there. Okay, and this I think is the one that some people have ended up having to drill out because they mess up the head, and this is the reason I bought Japanese industrial standard screwdrivers. So fingers crossed, I'm in there at an angle to get in the head of it, and I've got to hope that it comes away with one crack. Now I'm not going to do that one-handed. I'm putting the camera back up top. Okay, so I've got the right size screwdriver. I have a nice feeling purchase on it. And the bloody rubber is turning without the screwdriver. There it goes. Okay. I am undoing it. Oh, I just remembered something else that I've read. Some people, in order to get their screwdriver more directly down on that rather than coming in at an angle, have drilled away a little bit of plastic from here. So that could save you if you're having trouble with undoing this one. It's quite a long one, so the angle gets steeper as it gets undone, but I'm just about there. That's going to be fun putting it back in. I'm going in with the funny angled tweezers to get that out. Oh my word, that was a good one. So we gotta get this one, bottom left. Come on. Right, one up here, apparently. That's, yes, in there. Just under that ribbon cable there. Come on, there it goes. That totally disappeared on me then, but there it is. That's a tiny little screw. And then this screw here, and Gary says sometimes there's some black adhesive around there, as I've found on other screws, but yes, there is. So it may take a bit of a crack to get it going. There it goes. And if it's heavy, if they've gone heavy with that black adhesive, scrape away a little piece with a fine screwdriver or a little X-Acto knife or something. This should mean that we're now able to remove this whole CMOS assembly. And it does feel loose, I just can't get my big fingers in around it. And I've got to be very careful not to bloody drop it once I get it aloft. Come on now. It looks like there's a screw I've left in there. Is that really? Because... hang on a minute. No, that's for the cover. I'm having trouble lifting it around this little piece here. Ah, here we go. Hang on. This is very, very awkward. There's something not quite coming away, and I'm not going to force anything. I know that much. Oh, it's coming out. It's coming out. Here we go. Whoa. That wasn't the easiest, and for some reason, don't know if you can... oh, there it goes. Just shot across there. Where the hell did that come from? Because I've accounted for every screw, and there's one. So I'm going to stick on the far right there. Much smaller than the others, that was rattling around inside this thing. How on earth does that happen? Okay, this is the sensor assembly. This is what we're working with, and first of all I'm going to put this in a bag. We'll just put a bag over it perhaps. Okay, so now we've got this sensor unit out in the open, exposed, and we're going to need to take it apart. This is what it's all about now. Just in front of the sensor lies two filters, and this top one is under this little metal frame. Undoing this top screw here first of all. There it is. Took two hands to crack that one. So now what we need to do is pry this little metal frame. So if I can get it in under there perhaps. What you've got to make sure of is when you've released these from the catches, this thing doesn't just ping across the room. I think I need something pointier. There. That's released the tension. Now that can come away. Okay, now I got one of these little pots to keep this in, because this ribbon cable now is for the electrics involved in the sensor cleaning, and it's part of this top filter. So in this is the LPF1 filter. That we retain, but you can just pull it from there by its ribbon cable nice and gently. There seems to be a little bit of something tacky in there. Tiny little dot of silicone in each corner by the look of it. Now remember, that's a filter, so we want to keep that dust free. Put that there for later. Leaving us with this filter remaining is the LPF2 filter, and that is the one we're going to remove from this housing.
We first remove these two screws that are in the black plastic frame.
I only spent like £4 or £5, I think, on this cheapy little X-Acto knife set, but it comes with these other blades, and they recommended a chisel type blade. Because what we need to do now is to go around this and release that from, I don't know if it's silicone or double-sided tape they've used. Canon stick it down. And we need to go around bit by bit. So we're just working our way in, slightly loosening bit by bit as we go around. Don't try and force it off too soon. I think there's little dowel type peg things in the corners. something preventing me from getting this chisel tip in there. There it goes. You can feel it lifting now off the adhesive, at least over that end. And I don't want to snap that lug off, so I shall lift that. Right, that there is a bare naked sensor. We need to keep that safe. I'm putting that in so that it's not actually touching the bag, but trying to keep it dust free. And now this is what we are working with. Basically, we're going to keep this frame and put it back in the assembly, but without that piece of glass in the middle. Now, all it is apparently some silicone around the edges. All we need to do, and I'm going to put my head torch on for this so I can see what I'm doing a bit better. Is to gently cut away at these corners with the sharpest knife you can get your hands on. Bit by bit by bit. Now, here's the thing with this. You could take all the care with this to release this and still break it, but does it matter? I don't think it matters at all. As long as you don't get glass in any of your camera bits. I personally am going to throw this away. It's never going back in my camera again. It's not like there's a high resale value for the stock 450D, so there's no point. Now I noticed in one corner, and I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there's a little triangle of plastic that isn't present in the other corners, and that slightly overlaps this lens, so it's designed to come away from this opposite corner. But I don't know how long I'm going to have to scratch away at this glue to free this. This is all new to me. In fact, there are little clips each side, so at some point it should come to a point, there it goes, should come to the point where it just pops out, and it is just popping out at this point now. You can see it's coming with that self-adhesive. What a time to stop recording, 5:50. Right. And that's it. That is the LPF2 filter. That was the cause of all our problems. Basically, it's the whole reverse process now, putting it back together and making sure we put it back together in a way that it works. This little one here. Okay, I'm not touching the filter itself. I can see a little speck on that. That's more like it. So, note which way around this is. There's a little tab on the right of the black plastic bit, and then this ribbon cable comes down that away. Now we have to get this way around to clip back over, but without scratching anything. And I think that, no, I didn't quite do it. There, that's clipped there. You know, I think I've got it. So we're going to put this back onto the CMOS frame now, which was sitting in there waiting for us. And we want it this way around. Looks clean and dust free. Let's get it covered as soon as possible. Now it says that there are 2 plastic lugs that sit into 2 little holes. That's bottom right, top left. Those little holes there and there. There's one, there's the other. Right. I've got this wrong. I have got this wrong. It is this way around. Right, sorry about that. So yes, this way around. We've got the connector sticking out on the right, the ribbon up on the top to the right. And I'm thinking that's the wrong screwdriver now. These gloves aren't easy. Nearly had that then. So that's those 2 screws. Oh, there is a third. Okay, right. So that's those 3. Okay, first of all, I'm going to give the camera body a little blowout away from the sensor. I'm just reading the instructions, and it says, notice the 3 focus shim locations in the photo below. 1, 2, and somewhere up there, 3. That's where we got that funny angled screw from. There are black pins holding the shims in place, and each shim has a hole for a mounting screw. So yes, black plastic and a hole for the mounting screw. Line up the 3 holes in the filter CMOS assembly frame with the 3 pins and place onto camera body. How do I even hold it to do this? That's pretty darn awkward. That thing goes over there somewhere. That goes over there. Okay, I got that pin. I can't see what's going on up here. There. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. Yes, all the pins are through. Okay. So, I hope we can see that. Let's try and show you up close on this camera. those little grey tab holes, yeah, little grey tab there, and the other ones at the top. Don't know why I tried saying that then. Little grey tab there, little grey tab there, the other one's at the top. I had a mouthful of head torch because it wouldn't point to where I was actually looking. Okay, so that's in place, so I'm not so worried about dust anymore. That's good. So we're on to replacing screws, and we're looking at 2 long and 2 short. I'm going to take one of the long screws, and I think we'll go with the easy one down in the bottom left corner first. That's that one there. In fact, I'm going to put a short one on next. I'll put it there. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself there. I wasn't looking at the picture. So yes, that was the first of the long screws. That one bottom left that I just did. Second one is that one in there at an angle, but I'll get to that after a couple of short screws. Come on, short screw. Oh no, that fell in. I'm glad that came out the hole. And again, right, I'm going for a different approach now. This isn't a difficult job so far, it's just very, very fiddly. Did you hear that? I went on the floor and just behind me. That was pretty lucky. Now, I want to prop this up on something so there isn't a hole below that. And I'm going to try again with some tweezers. I just want to get it sat in that hole. Come on! So close, but no cigar. Don't you fall in! Oh, it fell in. There it is. Ah! Who'd have thought this one screw would give me this much trouble? It's simple. There we go now. Right, okay. That's all I had to do. Just get that screw in that hole. Okay, relax, relax. Deep breaths. Everything's going swimmingly. I was in the middle of 4 screws. Another short screw goes up this end and in there. So we're in. Okay, that's done. Now it's just that awkward one up inside the one that went in at a horrible angle. And this is going to take some tweezering just to get into position in the first place. I would heartily recommend some hook tweezers like these, because, and I don't know if anyone's going to see this. Hang on, what's that one? What's that light? There's another bit of light. I'm hoping the DSLR might be able to see up in that corner. Not really. So I'm going in and under. I can see the little hole it's got to go into. Just drop it down in that little hole, push it down as far as it'll go. Okay, that's ready for screwing down into now. But something I said earlier was that some people like to sort of drill about here, a small hole, and get in from above. And you needn't worry about the hole that's left either, because the eyepiece slides right over that and covers it. So if your screwdrivers can't get that, don't mess up the head of your screw. Just drill a little hole right there. You can see when you're directly above it, and you will get in there. Now I've got to try and get this started. That's the most difficult bit. There we go. As it gets deeper, just trying different size screwdrivers here. There we are, that's home. So that's step 36, install the 4 screws as shown. Ribbon cable next. It's this little one just here. Cocktail stick time. There we go, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. In fact, I shall just nip up on the shoulders there until it is fully home, and you can see that the shoulders butt up against the block. Okay, now circuit board. One of these things we saved earlier. It says here, note that on the upper right of the circuit board there's a white plastic pin connector here that mates into, try and show the DSLR here, little black plastic thing in there. That's what this clips into, and it's on the move, so that is just on a couple of pair of wires there, that's why. So I'm gonna have to grab that with some tweezers, I think. I'm sorry, I know you can't see what I'm doing with my hands in the way, but I'm just trying to get these ribbon cables up and above where they need to be. Now can I push this in? Oh no, there is a clip there. Right, it is in place. It's just well, that's supposed to be bent out the way. Need that ribbon up and above. Come on. These ribbons up and above. Come on, get out of there. Out of there. You don't. Oh, the other one nipped back in. Come on. So that's about in place now. I can see the holes are lining up. don't think there's anything jammed underneath. It feels good, and that's locked into place. Right, okay. So the circuit board is in place, not screwed down yet. Number 42 screw. So this one is going up under that ribbon cable there, into that hole. And I was really hoping that would have worked a little lighter. Okay, now I need to reseat this on a pin. It's not quite in. There. Okay, now I've got it. That's the first one in. Here we go. Connect all ribbon cables, A through J. Well, actually J through A this time, because we're working backwards. So J is the one that was underneath here, and it was the reverse flap one. The flap is still open, so that's loose. That's good. What I will need to do then is cocktail stick that into position, and nope, still needs a little further. There. And then I could do that with my finger. Just I closed the little grey flap there, and that is now locked in. It's gonna be great fun by the look of it. I did sort of comment that this was going to be fun when taking it out, because you can't really get at it. There's a cable just above it. So what I'm trying to do here, oh, there is a hole for a cocktail stick in it. That's good. Oh, I think I've got it in. Yeah, the shoulders are up. That's good. There's that pointy screwdriver to close down the lock. Oh, good, good, good. So, don't know if you can see there, that's the one underneath this ribbon cable, seated in from the rear and then closed down that way with the flap. G is this one now, nice and simple. Again, make sure the flap is, was it a flap in this one? I don't even recall. Oh, we've got to go back a fair bit, so it might be a 2 cocktail stick job. One to move it back and one to hold it down. Come on, get in there. Ah, it is a little lid. Right, that's in and closed. I'm going to double check that's in properly, because it looks like the shoulders aren't fully tight, but it is as far in as it'll go. So I'll have to assume it is correct. F will be this one. Where's this go again? That goes underneath, so I'm going to have to put that in first. It doesn't mention that. I think they've skipped it in the instructions. Oh, this is going to be lovely, this one. Let's try and grab it that way around. Ah! Come on. Really, really awkward. In fact, that's probably the best word for this whole job, is awkward. It's not difficult, it's really awkward. Yeah, that's home. And now we can put this one in. The lock flap is up. That's home. And that's locked. E is this one. Remember, that one just pressed in, so I'm looking from the side, making sure it's centered. And that's it, just presses in. I skipped to E, having not done H, didn't I? Yes. Ah, well. It's the next logical one. Just there. Same as usual. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going fully in, but it is coming to a stop. So I've got to assume that's it. And again, locked down. Right, over the far left now. D comes over this to plug into this little one. Flap up. That one's in. Make sure the flap's up. And this one. This doesn't have the little security latch locking mechanism thing. It's just push to fit. Takes a little bit of a wiggle all the way up to the shoulders. There we go. Now, last one here. Again, just a push fit with a little wiggle, 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 wiggle. There. Right there, number 44, and we got 3 screws here. One is slightly longer than the other two. The slightly longer one goes down in this bottom right corner. In that little grounding strap corner there. 2 short screws. One's got to go in there. That's sprung up at the minute because I bent it out the way. So it'd be nice to get that back down and seated. And the last of those short screws from step 44 goes, watch carefully, in here. There's little white dots around it. There's 2 holes right next to each other. Only one is a true hole anyway. The back of the camera is now connected to the camera body with the last ribbon cable. Oh, We're on to this bit already. This is getting exciting now, isn't it? Actually, a cocktail stick might do it. Come on now, come on. Right. And now we can put it back in place. I'm not trying to force anything that doesn't want to go, because I remember it was a little bit fiddly opening it in the first place. Making sure there's nothing in the way, like trapped cables. Oh, let's not forget this. Oh, that's it. Let's click back in. Okay, in the reverse order, we're putting the screws back in the outside now. And there was a short one in there. This is from step 47, which was step 5 on the way out. Okay, those two obviously hold the two halves together. Number 48. It looks like this is short, that's long. Short screw. Now it'll be on the other side. We've got a long screw, step 49. On the underside, we came down this way undoing these 4 screws, so we're going back up the other way. I did put these in order. There's a short one for there. Same again. And the long one at the top. We got 3 screws in there now. The eyepiece and that little rubber thing. I think personally that this would be a marvellous time to stick a battery and an SD card in and see if I need to take it apart again before I finalise it. Here we go. Oh, it is on. Shit. Let's hope that that is a flat battery and that this one isn't. Oh, we got a red light. Set date time, blah blah blah. Wow. I can do the finishing touches and put these last few screws in. Now I know it's working. There was one slightly longer screw, and it was the first one I took out, which I believe was the top left. So I'm going to put these 2 in first. slide that back on and stick that back on, and hopefully there's enough sticky to keep it there. If not, I've covered one of the holes, that's what it is. If not, I could always put a little bit more double-sided tape in there. Yeah, that's alright once it's pressed down. Tidy. It would appear, ladies and gentlemen, that I have astro modified my 450D. Yeah, I know I haven't taken a sample image, and I shall do. It is currently clear outside, and yeah, I'm about to unleash this beast on the Horsehead Nebula and see how it goes. No, I gotta pack up. Oh, bugger.